I set. Good evening. Calling to order January 21st, 2020 Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals. We'll start with our roll call from my right.
Lynn Heath.
Marla Canfield.
Bill Schnauber.
Gary Israel.
Eric Peterson. Brian Davidson.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the December 17th, 2019 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I, Eric Peterson, move that we approve the minutes of the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals from December 17th, 2019 as written.
I have a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, would second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. Communications, committee and staff report. Les, any comments?
Well, just kind of a summary on 2019. We had over 80 single-family housing permits and over 30 two-family housing permits. So that shows the trend continues, that we'll be somewhere in that range, and possibly there's an uptick in activity this year because of some plats that you all have seen in the past few months that we think will be online soon.
Good. Thank you.
And
Any comments?
you'll remember at your last meeting, Justin Constantino was here just hanging out in the audience. He's now on staff as the Assistant Director of Community Development.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay. At this time, then, moving on, we need to recess the Planning Commission and convene the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we recess the Planning Commission and convene the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I, Brian Davidson, second.
I have a motion and a second to recess the Planning Commission and convene the Board of Zoning Appeals. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. Thank you. All right. Item number 5, BZA V 2020-01, public hearing on an application for variance on property generally located at 2935 East Flint Hills National Parkway, Andover, Kansas. Subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area of structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets. Staff knows of no reason not to grant the requested variance pending the outcome of the public hearing. Okay. A couple of ground rules here. I'd like to welcome everyone interested in this particular item. It's important that you present any facts or views that you have as evidence at this hearing so that the findings can be made for the decision of this board. In order to grant a variance, 5 specific written findings of fact must all be met according to the state statutes and the city zoning regulations. This board is authorized by state statutes to make a decision appealable only to district court and not to the governing body. After our zoning administrator provides us with some information, I will call upon the applicant, and then we will hear from other interested parties. Once all have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The board will close the hearing to further public comments and will then consider their decision, during which time they may direct questions to the applicant, the public, or staff. You should be aware that the board can require such conditions to be attached to the premises benefited by the variance as may be necessary to comply with the standards set out in Article 11.106. These are to reduce any potentially injurious effect of such variance upon other property in the neighborhood and to carry out the general purpose and intent of these regulations. Failure to comply with any of the conditions attached to a zoning permit for a variance shall constitute a violation of the regulations. You should also be fully aware that if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans, the city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson, give their name and address, and please use the podium here on my right. Speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded for inclusion in our minutes. Okay, do we have any disqualifications at this time?
No.
Okay. Official notice of this hearing was published in the Butler County Times-Gazette on December 31st, 2019. Notices were mailed to the applicant and 5 real property owners of record in the area of notification on December 23rd, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Has there been any ex parte communications?
No.
No.
Okay. Les, turn it over to you, please.
I think this is a pretty simple request, given the large size of the lot. The owner just has designed a garage and pool house structure that exceeds the 500 square foot maximum for detached accessory structure.
Okay. Any questions for
No.
staff?
No.
Nope.
All right. Is the applicant here? No? Lance?
No, the applicant is not present this evening. They were traveling and weren't able to be here.
Okay.
But they did submit some supplemental information that we have included in your packet, so if you guys have any general questions about the building itself, we can do our best to answer them from what's been submitted to us.
All right, thank you.
Are they going to have, they're going to leave the garages in the main area? So they're going to have a bunch of garages there.
We don't know of any changes to the principal structure.
Okay. Well, they're just adding 3 garages, and I thought they had 2 in the other one. That's why. One for the lawnmower and one for the...
I think you all noticed that there is a letter from Flint Hills Company,
Yep. Seems like they did the steps
letter of
right.
their acceptance.
Yep.
And, yes, and they have higher restrictions than what,
In many ways, yes.
I spent a lot of time looking at this, so it's...
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No questions?
Questions,
No.
anybody?
No.
No.
Marlon? Nope. Okay. At this time, then, any public comments? All right. I think you've all seen the letter of acceptance then from Flint Hills, so,
Yeah.
all right. Other than the letter of acceptance, any other written communications? Okay. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the board wishes to ask questions to clarify information. We will now deliberate the request, determining whether the evidence presented supports the conclusions of the required findings of fact. The board will now consider the criteria provided for evaluation.
I can do it this time, Mr. Chair, if you want me to.
Thank you.
All right. Does the evidence, findings of fact, does the evidence demonstrate that, number one, the physical surroundings, shape, or topography of the property would result in a practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience for the owner, lessee, or occupant? Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur?
Concur.
Number two, granting the variance will result in material detriment or injury to other property or improvements in the neighborhood. Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
Concur.
Number three, granting the variance will result in an inadequate supply of light or air to adjacent property, substantially increased traffic congestion, increased fire risk, or substantially diminished property values in the neighborhood. Sure it'd be nice if you could say ditto, wouldn't it be? Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
Number four, the request for a variance is not based exclusively on a desire of the owner, lessee, occupant, or applicant to make more money out of the property. Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
I don't want you looking at the second page now on all the answers.
Now we move on to specific conditions to be met.
I did sign up for this one, didn't I? Specific conditions to be met. Number one, the requested variance arises from a condition unique to the property in question, which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning district and which was not created by any action of the property owner or of the applicant. Staff, subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
Number two, strict application of the provisions of the zoning regulations would result in unnecessary hardship for the owner, lessee, or occupant of the land or structures. Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
Number three, granting the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
Number four, the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare. Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
Number 5, the requested variance will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of these zoning regulations. Staff, the subject lot is 2.7 acres, which provides a substantial area for structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage limit of 30%. Additionally, the large lot size allows for adequate separation from existing and proposed structures to adjoining properties and public streets.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve, modify, and approve, disapprove, or table the discussion.
Chairman, having considered the evidence at the hearing and determined that the findings and facts that have been found to exist that support all 5 conditions set out in subsection 11-10(6)(8)(b)(2) of the zoning regulations and KSA 12759E, I, Lynn Heath, move that the chairperson be authorized to sign a resolution granting the variance for case number BZAV 2020-01 as requested.
I have a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second the motion.
We have a second by Gary Israel. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. A resolution will be prepared and made available to the applicant as soon as reasonably possible, but no later than March 6, 2020. If anyone is aggrieved by this decision, a further appeal can be made to the district court to determine its reasonableness within 30 days after the resolution is signed and filed with the zoning administrator. Thank you. Item number 6, BZA CU 2020-01. Public hearing on an application for conditional use on property generally located at 127 West Central Avenue and 405 North Andover Road, Andover, Kansas. The proposed outdoor display complies with the standards for granting a conditional use. Staff knows of no reason not to approve the conditional use as requested pending the outcome of the public hearing. Again, we have some protocol that I read earlier. We'll stay with that. Anyone wishing to speak, approach the podium and state your name and address, please. Let's see. Do we have any disqualifications regarding this?
No.
No.
Official notice for this hearing was published in the Butler County Times-Gazette on December 31st, 2019, and notices were mailed to the applicant and 20 real property owners of record in the area of notification on December 23rd, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and this hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Has there been any ex parte communications?
No, sir.
Les?
This is a case that you don't frequently hear. Conditional uses have been fairly few in the last 20 years. Conditional uses are listed within the zone for a property, and in this case, it's just simply for the outdoor display. That display could be anything, but it's not outright permitted in the zone, so the applicant's here tonight to get conditional use authority to display outside the business.
Yep. Okay.
Concur.
Any questions for staff?
No.
At this time, applicant, please, name and address.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Bob Kaplan, 150 North County Line Road, Andover. About a year ago, close to a year ago, I would say, I was sitting in my law office and I received a call from a gentleman by the name of Arthur Eldridge. He wanted a donation of space for a project that he had in mind. In the shopping center I own, you have the addresses. It's the Andover Square Center on the southwest corner of Central and Andover Road. And he mentioned what he was thinking about, and it came across to me like gibberish. I didn't understand what in the heck he was talking about. So I said, Mr. Eldridge, maybe you better give me an email and explain your project, because I don't understand it. And he did, and I read the email, and it piqued my interest. So I called Arthur back, and I said, well, let's meet and have coffee, and let's talk about it. And Art is with us tonight, Mr. Eldridge, sitting to the right of the architect, of Mark Cartwright. So what he had in mind was a facility that provides academics for youngsters who are interested in a career in space and planetary exploration. A very, very interesting subject, and probably our last frontier. And I didn't know very much about it, but after I met with him, I was very intrigued, so I said, I'm going to do this. So I provided the space, and I provided some money for a remodel, and I did part of the remodel, just the standard restrooms and doors and things like that. The company that he is really representing, he's the director, it's called Space Discovery Institute. And what they do is they have a hands-on facility with actual current hardware from NASA and from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And what we want to do, we've got the remodel virtually done, and we're ready to bring in the equipment. And this is not a Bob Kaplan project. This is not an Andover Square project. I'm not going to make any money. It's costing me money. This is an Andover, City of Andover project. It's going to be a great attraction for the City of Andover. The school district is really, really enthusiastic about it. They're going to try to work it into their science program. What it is, it's a facility with actual space hardware. We have space capital, Mars rovers, mission control room. We've got a small Kennedy Space Center in Andover Square. We've only got 3,300 square feet. They've got 160,000 acres. We can't do that. But it is going to be a tremendous project for this city, and it's going to be free. There's going to be no charge. And what we're going to do is provide a curriculum for youngsters who have an interest in having a career in space and planetary exploration. And it's a very, very exciting project. We've had a workshop with the city council, the old city council, not the former council, and they kind of know what's going on. And everybody that we've talked to is tremendously supportive. And although it's really collateral to this hearing, I do want you to know that the Wallace Foundation, Dwight and Velma Wallace from Cessna Aircraft, their foundation has been very, very supportive, and they have provided a great deal of money to help us. They're a big, big sponsor, and they are continuing what they're doing to help us put this facility together and bring this hardware in. I also got a very nice check from Rob Patton, who's the owner of Pterodyne Country Club. I took Rob through on Saturday, and before he left, he handed me a four-figured contribution. So we're doing very, very well. Arthur is here and can explain the technology. That's my thing. But what we're going to do is give these kids an opportunity that are interested in a career in space and put them to work on some of the equipment and let them monitor things on the computers. And what we want to do is, we've got a space capsule. You should have a picture of it. I don't know if you do or not. We want to, yes, that's it. And we want to mount that in front of the facility, and that'll be a traffic attractor. That is an Orion space capsule, and that happens to be, it's a simulation, but that happens to be the current space capsule that is being used by NASA And, it's, you know, people said to me, well, we've got the Hutchison facility exploration place. And I said, yeah, if you want to stand behind a rope and look at a 15-year-old Apollo capsule, you go up there and stand behind a rope and look at a 15-year-old capsule. But this is really, really current, and this is all brand new. This is the current hardware. And when I looked at the brochures that I was given, I saw some very interesting names. Besides Captain Eldridge, when I looked through it, I saw a name and a picture, Colonel Buzz Aldrin. And I said, well, my goodness gracious, if Colonel Buzz Aldrin is interested. Yes, he's an advisor. And it's been just an amazing experience for me. So what we're asking you to do is approve the conditional use, and we'll set up this capsule, and then we're going to have, I think, most of the hardware is going to be inside, but that's pretty much it. But it's going to be a great attraction, I think, for the city of Andover, the Andover School District, the Wichita School District's very enthusiastic about it. And anyone that's interested can come in and tour it, and we're not going to have any charge. We're going to try to be open 7 days a week if we can. We're using volunteers. We've met with the engineering school at WSU, and we think that some of their engineering students are going to come in as instructors on a volunteer basis, and we're going to allow them to use the facility for their own STEM experience. It's a STEM program is what it is. Science and technology, engineering, mathematics, really a hot button right now. And of course, we're back in space and doing quite a bit. So that's pretty much the story. Any questions I'll try to answer. Arthur's here, and Matt Cartwright has been the architect for Andover Square for me for a long, long time. He designed it. The permit actually was approved. We showed the capsule on the building application, on the permit application, and that's actually been approved, but we need the conditional use, of course, for the outdoors place. So that's about it.
Mr. Kaplan, the craft itself is going to be up against the building, or is it going to be out on the main street?
We've got no, it's right against the building.
Okay.
We've got a pad to accommodate it with electricity and all to it, and it's just immediately beyond the space itself. It's within a few feet of the canopy of the building.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that.
Not going to be in anybody's way. It's about 13 feet wide.
I'm looking at an aerial of your property with the building there. How much, are we at one end of the building or the other?
It's at the west end of the building.
West end, okay.
And occupies a width of about 13 feet.
Okay.
So
Right in that corner.
Yeah.
Les was of the opinion that the code required me to send notices out in regard to the whole center, from the parameters of the whole center, and that's what I did.
I understand.
I wasn't expecting any response.
Okay.
Mr. Kaplan, that'll be open to the public?
Yes,
So
sir.
not just school?
Mr. Israel, it will be. It's open to the public, and it's free, and I would very much encourage all of you folks to come down and look at it. It is very exciting to walk through it. We have a Mars room, and when you walk in, you're going to see the surface of Mars. And I asked Arthur, I said, how did you simulate the surface of Mars? He said, I didn't simulate anything. Those are the actual photos taken by the Mars rover. When it landed and took photographs of the surface of Mars, they blew them up panel size, and we covered the walls with panels. When you walk in, it's got a sand floor. You'd be on Mars. It's very, very authentic and very realistic and very legitimate. So it's quite a deal, and I'm happy to do it. I'm excited about it, but like I say, it's for the city of Andover. I'm not renting the space. I'm contributing it.
Yeah, I have a question, but actually mine might be for Les, and it has to do, kind of guess, with my newness to the commission. When I first saw conditional use, my thought was like a temporary thing, a festival, put it up and you take it down. Are there time parameters that go with a conditional use? Is it there for as long as the business is there? How does that work?
A conditional use runs with the land. So this could continue from owner to owner in the future.
Okay.
No timeline.
Got it.
No,
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Well, Les, again on that question. So if at some point, Mr. Kaplan, everything just kind of disappeared and the space capsule was gone, the pad would still be there, then somebody else could put another type of display in its place without coming before the commission?
yes and no. Another capsule could be displayed there, but if the conditional use is vacated for more than 6 months, its authority goes away.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
That's kind of where I was trying to go. Thanks for doing that.
Any other questions for Mr. Kaplan?
Only this, I have one. I understand you said 13-foot diameter. How tall is it, the capsule?
How tall?
12, so it's still below kind of the roof canopy? Okay.
We're right at it.
You guys want to comment on anything?
Any other questions for Mr. Kaplan?
Nope.
Mr. Kaplan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any comments from the public at this time? No? Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the board wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The board will now deliberate the request, determining whether the evidence presented supports the conclusions of the required findings of fact. The board will now consider the criteria provided for the evaluation.
I could do that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Findings of fact, specific conditions to be met. Number one, the proposed conditional use complies with all applicable zoning regulations, including lot size requirements, bulk regulations, use limitations, and performance standards, or a concurrent application for variance is in process. Staff, the proposed outdoor display complies with the applicable bulk regulations.
Concur.
Number two, the proposed conditional use will not cause substantial injury to the value of the property in the neighborhood. Staff, the outdoor display is well screened or separated from nearby residences, businesses, and public streets.
Concur.
Number three, the proposed conditional use will not dominate the immediate neighborhood, preventing development and use of neighboring property in accordance with applicable zoning district regulations. Staff, the proposed location is screened by the existing commercial building on the south and west, is approximately 400 feet off of Central Avenue.
Concur.
Concur.
Number four, off-street parking and loading areas for the proposed conditional use will be provided in accordance with the standards set forth in Article 6 of the zoning regulations. Staff, the proposed location does not interfere with the existing parking layout.
Concur.
Number five, adequate utility drainage and other such necessary facilities have been installed or will be provided by plating, dedications, or guarantees. Staff, NA.
Concur.
Concur.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question about number 4. If this is going to be open to the schools and they're going to be trying to use it as curriculum for the classes, how will they bring students down to the location? Is there room for bus parking in the parking lot? And will that create any issues there? I guess that would be up to asking staff.
Well, it's a commercial parking lot that we would presume would have access to a school bus if necessary. I can't imagine that they would want to park a school bus in the parking lot. Probably a drop-off would be more realistic.
Okay.
Well, a lot of it too, there shouldn't, I would be surprised if there'd be that many people come down at one time. They would all use a smaller, one of their smaller buses that carry people down instead of the.
Okay. Thank you.
And then number 6, adequate access roads, entrance and exit drives, or access control designed to prevent traffic hazards and to minimize traffic congestions in public streets and roads is available or will be provided by plating, dedications, or guarantees. Staff, the proposed location does not interfere with the existing parking layout/access.
Concur.
Concur.
Les, I have a question concerning the findings of fact. There are a different number of items here. We had 6 in this case, and we had 4 and 5 in the previous case. Is that because it's conditional use?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a different action. There's a state law that requires you to go through all 9 of those findings for a variance.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Shot for an old man.
I can count. All right. At this point, is there a motion to either approve, modify and approve, disapprove, or to table this discussion?
Mr. Chairman, having considered the evidence at the hearing and determined that the findings of fact have been found to exist that support all 5 conditions, isn't that 6? Yeah, forgive me.
All the ones in A, so I don't know if they're counting that one or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me, having considered the evidence at the hearing and determined that the findings of fact have been found to exist that support all 6 conditions set out in subsection 11-107C of the zoning regulations, I, Eric Peterson, move that the chairperson be authorized to sign a resolution granting the conditional use for case number BZA-CU-2020-01 as requested.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for a second.
Lynn Heath, I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Good luck.
Yeah, count on it.
One closing remark, a resolution will be prepared and made available to the applicant as soon as reasonably possible, but no later than March 6, 2020. If anyone is aggrieved by this decision, a further appeal can be made to the district court to determine its reasonableness within 30 days after the resolution is signed and filed with the zoning administrator. Okay. Item number 7, BZAV 2019-02. Should that be 2020, or am I?
No, we saw this one already, I think.
This is a continuation of a 19 case.
Okay.
Again, case number BZAV 2019-02. Application to extend validity of the variance granted on property generally located at 849 South Andover Road, Andover, Kansas. The applicant has not acted on the approved variance to construct an accessory structure and simply requests an extension of the 180 days in order to allow more time to begin construction. Staff knows of no reason not to approve the request pending the outcome of the public hearing. Right. Les, any information?
Back in July of 2019, a variance was granted for this 4,800 square foot accessory structure. The applicant hasn't gotten started on that, and as we talked about earlier, if a variance isn't acted on within 180 days, it expires. The applicant's just simply asking for an extension of that 180 days in order to get a contractor hired to build his building.
Are we, I'm sorry, I have a question, Mr. Chair. So if we vote to approve, are we rolling it over for another 180?
Yes, that would be your action.
We don't have to go through the facts and findings again. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, any other questions?
No.
All right then. I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, would make a motion that we extend the extension of 180 days to allow for more time to begin construction on the variance granted on the property generally located at 849 South Andover Road.
I have a motion.
Lynn Heath, I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second to approve case number BZAV 2019-02. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to adjourn the Board of Zoning Appeals and reconvene the Planning Commission.
I have a motion to adjourn,
I will second. Brian Davidson.
and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 8, case number Z 2020-01. Public hearing and recommendation on a change of zoning district classification application from the B2 Neighborhood Business District to the B3 Retail and Service Business District on property generally located at 822 North Andover Road, Andover, Kansas. The applicant desires to expand the existing medical offices beyond the 5,000 square foot maximum floor area limitation imposed by the existing B2 Neighborhood Business District. In order to accommodate the larger floor area, a change in zoning district is required. However, the next less restrictful zoning district, the B3 Retail and Service Business District, allows several permitted uses that staff feels are not compatible with the adjacent single-family residences. Staff would recommend approval of the change to the B3 zone, but limit permitted uses to those in the existing B2 Neighborhood Business District through the use of an arterial transition overlay district, pending the outcome of the public hearing. Okay. Any disqualifications?
No.
Official notice for this hearing was published in the Butler County Times-Gazette on December 31st, 2019. Notices were mailed to the applicant and 13 real property owners of record in the area of notification on December 23rd, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Any ex parte communication?
No.
Les?
This is a rather unusual case. The applicant just wants to expand their existing business on this property, but because of the B2 Neighborhood Business District's restriction to 5,000 square feet maximum, it wouldn't be allowed. So I guess in all things, there's more than one way to get to the end, and in this case, we think it's appropriate to grant a higher zone, which would allow a structure larger than that 5,000 square feet, but not allow all of the additional permitted uses that might not be so compatible with single-family residences adjacent to the east of this property. Seems like a pretty simple request to me. We of course wanted to hear from the public on their opinion because this would put the building closer to that residential district, but the applicant is here to plead his case.
I don't know if this is for Les or if I should wait, but is the expansion going to the east?
Yes.
That's the only direction I could
Yes,
tell that they could.
Site plans included in your package. You can see the footprint of the additional building that they're proposing.
We have one here that says what the zoning is for everything around there.
Excuse me?
What the zoning is for the other properties around there.
Yeah, we
It's
do.
all B2, B3.
It's B2
Not all,
on either
not all of
side.
it. Not all of it, Lynn.
Okay, that's,
You've
my
got it.
little picture here is all blue, that's why I wondered.
Yeah. But adjacent to the east is SF2 single
Yeah.
family in the Crescent Lake
I understand
subdivision.
that, then, yeah. But on the north and the south is all B2 also.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Now, I'm looking at the architectural plan, Les, in Phase 2 building and then a Phase 3 building?
Correct.
Is this application for both those additions?
This application would remove that limitation on the maximum square footage.
Okay.
Les, is there any regulations stating how much square footage could be limited to? You know,
Yes.
like,
In every zoning district, there's a maximum lot coverage allowed, and I believe in the B2, it's 30%.
And the B3 would be,
The same.
okay.
So the.
Remember the B2, the B2 was to be kind of a interface between single-family residences and the services that those neighborhoods might desire.
Require.
The B3 opens up to a little bit wider
Right.
set of uses, larger, more intense businesses.
So this expansion only allows the square footage, the recommendation in your, from
What?
staff allows the square footage to be fit, but the uses to stay as they were.
Correct.
Got it.
The lot size gets a lot bigger.
Or the footprint of the business is allowed to get a lot
Yeah,
bigger.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Did I say that right?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
You're correct.
Phil Meyer with Baughman Company is here representing the applicant.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
No, sir.
If the applicant would approach the podium here, please.
Good evening, Phil Meyer with Baughman Company, agent for the applicant. I don't know that I can add much to what Les presented. Flint Hills Orthopedic is the present owner of the property, and they're looking just to expand their medical operations. So, and we're in agreement with staff comments as written. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
The one thing that I looked at, Phil, was, you know, with the building set back there and parking spaces forward, is there enough room in a driveway for two vehicles to pass each other if one's going back into park and one's coming out from the back?
Yes, there is an agreement between Flint Hills Orthopedic and the church to the south to share that driveway, and there's a joint access easement of record and record it. And they would use that existing driveway that serves the church. But they're also planning, as you can see by the lines there, making some improvements to that driveway and scooting it north just a little bit. And then they'll have the parking stalls off that new driveway.
Okay. Unless this does have to go to site planning committee, correct?
Yep.
Any additional questions for Phil?
No, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Phil. At this time, I'd welcome anybody from the public to make comments. No one? All right, then. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation.
One of the things on this is that most likely be a low traffic area. And with the things they're putting in there, it's not going to be a loud area either.
Yeah, that's true. Factors and findings, I'll read these. 1, do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff, adequate public facilities are in place.
Concur.
Concur.
2, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted, or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed rights-of-way, easements, building setback lines, or access control? Staff, no replatting or dedications are needed.
Concur.
3, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? Staff, the site plan for the new building expansion would require a screening plan as part of the site plan review process.
Concur.
4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff, none at this time.
Concur.
Concur.
5, if there has been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no error is known to exist.
Concur.
6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current zoning? Staff, the property is suitable for its current zoning.
Concur.
7, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or undeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the zoning change request? Staff, no.
Concur.
8, how reasonably well suited will the requested zoning change of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, not all of the permitted uses in the B3 retail and service business district are compatible with the adjacent single-family residential uses.
Concur.
Concur. 9, has the zoning change been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff, no, the new owner simply desires to expand. Concur. 10, what are the current land uses, character and condition of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? Staff, adjacent to the north is a child care facility in the B2 Neighborhood Business District. Adjacent to the south is a church in the B2 Neighborhood Business District. Adjacent to the east are single-family residences in the Crescent Lakes PUD. Across Andover Road to the west is a single-family residence in the SF1 Single-Family Residential Low-Density District, all in good condition. A homeowners association open space landscape buffer exists along the east side of the subject property.
Concur.
Concur.
11, would the proposed zoning change of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties, and if so, how? Staff, many of the permitted uses allowed in the B3 Retail and Service Business District are not compatible with the adjacent existing single-family residences. The increased traffic, noise, and hours of operation would be detrimental to the single-family residences.
Concur.
Concur. 12, how would the requested zoning change conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff, the comprehensive plan, Chapter 9, delivering the plan recognizes the need to infill the Andover Road corridor and allow higher density and lot coverage. Concur?
Concur.
13, do any professional persons knowledgeable on conditions that affect this zoning change request have information or recommendations to provide, which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff, given the incompatibility of some of the uses permitted in the B3 Retail and Service Business District, staff recommends approval of the change with the addition of an arterial transition overlay district which limits the permitted uses to those permitted in the B2 Neighborhood Business District.
Concur.
Concur. Yes. And 14, would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant compared to the relative gain to that public health, safety, and welfare if there is a change from the current zone to the requested zone? Staff, With the addition of the arterial transition overlay district limitations suggested, staff perceives no detriment to the public health, safety, or welfare.
Concur. Mr. Chairman, I do have one more question for the applicant. Thank you, Phil.
Yes, sir.
If this is just a continuation of Flint Hills Orthopedics operation, can you tell us what the hours of operation of the facility would be and days of the week?
No. I did my best to prep myself. I found the architect and tried to prepare myself for answers. I do not know I did not ask the question of hour of operations, but being a medical clinic, I would tell you it's 9 to 5. They show up at 8 and they're out of there by 5:36.
And typically would be Monday through Friday,
Yes, sir.
we would assume.
Yes.
Jennifer, are you looking that up?
Yeah,
Lance,
we looked
have
at while
that?
you guys were
So is Eric.
talking. So, according to the internet, they're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's
problem.
that's
Phil,
okay. I just wanted it on record that this is a typical business that wouldn't be operating late at night when children might be out around, home from school and doing things. They're not going to be open on Saturday and Sunday, you know.
With the extension going towards the residential area there.
Yes.
Lighting, what's the plan on on-site lighting there?
I think the only lighting we're going to look for is security lighting for us. We're not looking to light this thing up like a car
Okay.
lot. We
All right.
just need some security lighting for our patients, especially during the winter when at 5 or 5:30 when
Right.
they leave, it could be getting dark.
Okay. Thank you.
Les, do you have any other comments?
The site plan review committee will likely require that the parking lot be lit to that minimum 1-foot candle standard. However, those lights could be dimmed or shut off when the business is closed. You hit on a good point there about the hours of operation. The B2 Neighborhood Business District limits the hours of operations from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. There is no restriction on the hours of operation in the B3 district.
Thank you.
So we want to keep the same
So-
restriction.
Yes.
So you might consider adding that restriction to the hours of operation.
Sounds good to me.
So not just B2 uses, but B2 hours of operation.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else for Phil?
Thank you, Phil.
Any other comments at this time? Having discussed and reached conclusions on our findings of fact, I would remind the commission that a proper motion should reflect the factors on which it is based. And if approval is recommended, then consideration should be given to any conditions that might be attached. Is there a motion to either recommend approval, modification in approval, disapproval, or to table the discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, after having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Gary Israel, move that we recommend to the governing body that case number Z-2020-01 be approved based on the findings of the Planning Commission on findings number 8, 9, 10, 11, and 13 as recorded in the summary of this hearing, and that we have the following conditions attached, which would be that the approval of the change with the addition of an arterial transition overlay district, which limits the permitted uses to those permitted in the B2 neighborhood business district, and also the hours of operation as outlined in the B2 neighborhood business district.
I, Lynn Heath, second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve case number Z 2020-01. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Well done.
Thank you. Yes, very good.
Good job,
Thanks,
Gary.
Wes.
We needed a veteran to do that.
Yeah. Marlo's waiting, chomping at the bit there. All right. Item number 9, case number SU 2020-01, public hearing and recommendation on a special use application related to the establishment of a child care facility on property generally located at 1216 East Highway 54, Andover, Kansas. The applicant was granted special use by Ordinance 1725, following a recommendation by the Planning Commission June 18, 2019, with conditions that the US 54-400 corridor study right-of-way, access controls, or building setbacks be observed, and that McCandless Drive be paved to the entrance driveway to the daycare. The applicant has filed a new special use application with hopes of relief from the condition to pave McCandless Drive imposed by the ordinance. Staff sees no justification for the change requested and recommends that the original conditions stand. This is, of course, pending the outcome of our public hearing. All right. Any disqualifications?
No.
Official notice for this hearing was published in the Butler County Times-Gazette on December 31st, 2019. And notices were mailed to the applicant and 20 real property owners of record in the area of notification on December 23rd, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Any ex parte communication?
No.
No, sir.
Les, can you add anything to this? Seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I think I explained it pretty well in the notes. I have had a conversation with Ms. Bigley about this. I think more than anything, there's probably a misunderstanding about that condition for the paving of McCandless Street to the entrance of the proposed business. I think there's probably some compromise that can be offered there, and more than anything to clarify in writing what the expectations would be as far as that paving, how far it needs to be paved and to what standards.
Okay. That doesn't need to be taken care of prior to this vote tonight, though.
It would probably be best if we had some time to discuss this with the applicant, but they're here tonight to see if they can get relief.
Okay. All right. Any questions for staff?
I do have one question. Has there been a traffic study done on the street to know how many people might be using that who live north of the child care facility?
No, we don't have any traffic counts for that street.
Unless I have a, oh, I'm sorry, you weren't done.
No. That's-
From 54, how far north is the proposed paving to go? And what does the entrance to the business mean? Is that right there off the access road or further north?
Our Highway 54 corridor study would suggest that the driveway be at least 100 feet from the existing right-of-way. The pavement is extended from the shoulder of the highway over to the right-of-way today.
Okay.
I'm a little confused.
So the drive 100 foot, the drive 100 feet from the right-of-way and the paving is to go to the drive is what the, okay. Okay.
Do we know where that drive is going to be? I don't see,
We don't have a site plan for their proposed changes to the
Okay.
building.
How much paving are you saying needs to be done?
A minimum of 100 feet.
Okay.
okay. Any further questions for staff?
No.
Mrs. Bigley?
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
Christy Bigley, and the property is 1216 East US Highway 54, Andover, Kansas, 67002.
Okay. Can you enlighten us here?
Basically, my defense with this was we sat down with them in regards to the property itself, what idea we had in putting in place with me transitioning my business down the street to them. Not one time was anything ever mentioned in regards to us being responsible for paving a road. And so when we obviously came and presented it to you guys back in June in terms of getting a special use permit based on it being a B5 zoning, that was the first we had even heard that that was a stipulation that was being put in place in regards to the business being able to be transferred to that location. So my thing is I mean, we live right down there. We're on East Kellogg. That is a heavily used road for the residents that are back there, which there's anywhere from 70 to 80 homes. So I just don't feel like, for me to be able to move my business there, that I'm the sole person that would be responsible for the financial aspect of that road being built. I also, don't necessarily trust what that would look like in terms of the funding for it. Then, if I'm the person putting it in, who's responsible for the maintenance of it? Do we have to obviously get engineers involved, drainage involved to meet some sort of codes that really aren't even put into place with any other businesses? So I kind of felt like, with me asking for that special use for that property, because I was asking for that, then we're going to kind of up what the next criteria would be based on the other changes that are taking place around that address. So that's kind of where we're here today in terms of, we're a small business. You're not finding huge corporations coming in here that have all these times, funds, government grants, city funding that are able to, sustain these kind of funds. When we originally talked about the possibility of moving down there, we were looking at $50,000 for the renovations itself. Then that's when they were honest and said, well, hey, you're going to have to updo the parking lot itself, make everything ADA, accommodating, whatever the case may be. That took our $50,000 to $100,000. And then now we're obviously looking at a road being added on top of that. So it's one of those stipulations that we want to move my business in Andover. Almost all my clients are from Andover. We're literally just a mile down the road, but on the county side. Been there since 2010. Don't plan on going anywhere. Have a great reputation here. You guys are obviously looking at continuing to develop advertising for families to come in, but there's not a lot of child care facilities put in place. And because of where we're located, most people only know me based on word of mouth. They're not coming out to us because they're thinking they're in Andover City. They're coming to me based on the type of program that I offer and I can accommodate, which is a top-notch learning facility for kids who are under the age of 5, which is kind of a sales point for you guys in terms that we also offer that top-notch learning facility for ages 5 all the way to high school. So I just felt like, with me being responsible for a road, if we aren't going to require that for the other businesses around, even though I'm asking for a special use, it shouldn't just solely put on me.
Mr. Mangus mentioned about a compromise here. And again, this probably needs, I know what my thought is on the way it's been presented tonight as far as an appeal. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Bigley
No.
at this time?
No.
We'll discuss it here, and if we have any further questions, we'll ask you to come
Okay.
back up, okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Is there any public comments?
I wasn't planning on speaking, but I live at 329 South McCandless,
And your name,
Ashley
please?
Plackey.
Okay.
just on the west side of me, they changed it to multifamily. There's going to be some duplexes in there, and they are requiring them to pave Archer as far as the concern. So, I mean, there's other businesses. My only concern is the increased traffic. You know, it's a gravel road right now, so is the city going to come out every week, you know, as far as potholes and taking care of the road on that part? So, that's all I have.
Thank you. Les, can we respond to that at all? What's the position here?
Well, that's been our position all along, is that the adequate public improvements don't exist because it's a gravel road. And the increased traffic, maybe a few hundred cars a day on that short gravel section of the road, is going to require additional maintenance. And we feel that it should be upgraded to a paved surface to eliminate that traffic on a gravel road. Ms. Bigley mentioned the maintenance of that pavement. If the road were paved and the city council accepted that pavement as a dedication, the maintenance of the pavement would be the city's, because it is a public street.
Okay. Gentlemen, Marla, questions?
I have a question. Is it appropriate? I know this gentleman's wanting to say something. Can we recognize him?
I'm sorry, who was it? Yeah.
I
Yes.
just noticed he was trying to
Yeah,
say
no other public comments? You
Appreciate
can,
it. I'm David Bigley. I'm her husband. I'm also the owner of that property. So right now, we've had it for about 8 months, and it's been vacant. We've been paying the payments on it, and school buses, a lot of the people that live in the neighborhood use it as basically like a parking point, turning around in there. Sheriff officers use it. I always see sheriffs sitting in there. I don't think we'll contribute to anything behind the building, because most people pull in the building and then pull back out onto Keller. So they're not even going to go in the neighborhood back there unless it's customers that we already have that live back there. And like, as you said, it is a public street, so we already have to make upgrades to bring it up to like the US 54 corridor or whatever that is. So we were just kind of thrown off the last time we came in here, and they said that we had to pave that road. We've never paved a road before. I mean, that's a pretty big expense. We haven't even looked into seeing how much it was, because I thought it was going to be like, I mean, we might have to do something else with the property there, you know, once they told us that. So we have to move it back 100 feet already because of the Highway 54 corridor. Is that what you were saying, Les? Because right now the entrance is you can pull in and go right into the property, and it's been like that for, I don't know how long that building's been there, but it's been like that for a while.
Right. Remember that this was a business that was annexed by the city after it was built. There's no separation between the highway and the driveway. Our corridor study would suggest that that needs to have 100 feet of separation from the highway to the first driveway entrance.
Which 100 feet is going to bring it back like probably past the middle of that building. There is a second driveway back there in the back, so it'd probably be almost to there. And then also, so when we say a paved road, what is that like? Where they can put blacktop on it, or like those, like we live down off of Indianola, and they came and put like some chipped rock and some sealant on that, is something like that, or what kind of a paved road are we talking
well,
about?
Mr. Bigley, I think that's something that needs to be addressed. We're here committed to either holding up to what was originally approved,
Okay.
last year, and to respond to your appeal.
Okay.
The details of that will have to be hashed out with you and city. Okay, that's information that would have to be decided after the fact, I believe. Do we need to make our decision without that information, Les?
course, we couldn't quote them a price to pave a street
I
for
understand.
100 feet.
And that's
but, what we're contemplating is a minimal improvement, an asphalt overlay, because we know this is in the US 54 freeway corridor, and at some point in the future, this road segment will be removed for the freeway, and there will be a frontage road across the front of this property. So we think a minimal improvement, 6 inches of asphalt, probably would satisfy for that interim period until the freeway's built.
Okay.
What we're talking about then is for them to pave the lot and then to do this asphalt to the driveway,
Correct.
and then to still make a living.
Paving the parking lot will be something that will come into play when they submit their site plan for review.
And the first driveway goes away in essence, and the second driveway, or at least 100 feet, becomes the first driveway.
Right, at least 100 feet separation from the highway.
After the improvement, you mean, or even after that? After the, okay, it's 100 feet from where the highway is now, and then 100 feet from where the new road will be, or what's?
No, just 100 feet from the existing Highway 54 right away.
Okay. Right away, okay. Which is that line right there where the property line is. Is that right?
I'm not sure what the dimensions are there.
The future highway right-of-way line runs about through the number 1216. If you look over at Archer Street on the left side of the screen, you can see the future right-of-way has been applied to that parcel when it went through zoning a few months ago.
So that building will disappear when they put in the road.
Correct. That building will be in conflict with the future freeway.
And that was discussed at the initial meet.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Bigley? Thank you, sir.
If perhaps the applicant is amenable, we could continue this public hearing to give us some time to talk to the applicant and see if we can put together a plan to satisfy the requirements of the existing case.
Any comments to that? I'd be in agreement with that myself.
Yeah, so would I.
Yeah, because I'm not going to, I'm not for forcing him to put in blacktop there. It's going to be taken out in a few years, and especially for the profit that those type of businesses make. That's just, to me, insane. And I'm not.
But that's going to be, it's going to be down the road a ways.
Well,
Any new
still,
business,
whatever
any
money
new
you
business
put
going.
into it is wasted.
Oh.
Whether it's 5, 10, or 15 years.
Can I add one more thing? I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to have some clarification. In terms of the traffic flow that we will add to there, so like my license is a maximum of 100 kids. Right now, I have 50 families. It does not mean I have 50 families every single day. We just have 50 families total between my full-time and my part-time enrollees. But we also have a lot of siblings. So even with my current property that's literally a mile down the road, right off of East Kellogg, where you have to pull right in there from East Kellogg, there's no separation, no additional blacktop or anything. We have a maximum of like 20-some cars. So again, if this were to be approved where we obviously don't have that, there's not going to be 200-some vehicles that are using that street because one, a lot of my family's 2 and 3 children, to then there's never that many cars there at one time. So the most we'd be even looking at is what I'm thinking with the square footage of the building, what I've already spoken with my survey about, we're talking an additional 10 kids of what I have now, 15 kids of what I have now, because you obviously lose a lot more square footage the higher up you go. So, I mean, it would be a maximum of probably 30, 35 cars in there at one time, you know, on a daily basis because of the number of families I have with multiple siblings and because of what the licensing number is going to be for what I'm allowed based on the square footage.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That kind of supports my comment.
I understand.
So let me clarify traffic counts a little bit. What we heard when we talked with the applicant was their license allowed up to 100 kids. So let's just be the devil's advocate and say that between the parents and the employees, there would be a trip, and this is 4 times a day, a trip, 400 trips on that gravel road. Because remember, a trip is a trip in and a trip out at drop-off, a trip in and a trip out at pickup. Employees in, employees out. It's not 25 or 30 trips. It's maybe a few hundred.
I got another comment too.
Yes, sir.
Just going to Les's line though too, you know, traffic's gonna come from the north too, because you're gonna have, you know, to the schools, and everything's gonna go to the north. They're not gonna get back onto Kellogg. They're gonna come from the north, you know, as far as Yorktown Road and coming off you know, Douglas there, that interchange there. So,
Your name one more time, please, for the record.
Ashley Plackey.
Thank you.
Les, can you explain for me something you said earlier about extending the public hearing? What was that offer you said a little while ago?
I wondered if the applicant might be amenable to continue this public hearing to the next meeting to give us a little time to discuss expectations. Like I said earlier, I think we're in need of some clarification on both ends here.
To add to that, staff, you know, we deal with paving roads all the time. We deal with contracting this type of work. We deal with traffic studies and traffic counts and impacts to roads on a daily basis. We understand that the applicants do not. So if it would be continued, staff would like to extend an invitation to the applicant to come to City Hall and meet with staff, make sure that there are no clarifications needed in regards to staff's expectations as part of that recommendation. So we would extend to that offer.
I love the idea.
I
I'd
think
rather
it
those
needs to be done.
conversations happen there than,
I think otherwise,
Format.
I think it's an up or down vote here, and
I don't want to do that
yeah,
tonight.
I don't either. Mr. and Mrs. Bigley, based on that, I think right now we're looking at extending it. The decision on this, is that something that you have the desire to and the time to do and meet with staff?
Yeah, I mean, we'd be
Okay.
open to that to see what that
Okay.
would look like, so.
All right, because we want to do what's right.
Yeah.
And we appreciate your interest in our community and your willingness to, you know, add another business within the city here, and I think it's well needed, and hopefully we can get it worked out. Okay?
Do you know what that time frame would look like in terms of, I know you said us meeting prior to the next meeting. Would we be talking about that being next month, or what does that time frame look like?
The next meeting is February 18th.
February 18th is our next meeting.
Yeah, but when's you going to meet with you guys?
We're open anytime.
Okay. My only issue with that would be is we have a prior obligation, February 18th with my son for his sporting event. So I'm not opposed to obviously us meeting as soon as possible so we can come to some sort of agreement. And worst case scenario, it can be presented on our behalf if we work out a verbal agreement to where we sign off prior, so it does get settled and finalized next meeting. Otherwise, we would, just reconvene, I guess, in the March meeting.
I think,
Yes, would staff
Yeah.
be open to us tabling this until the March meeting?
I would suggest that you continue the public hearing to your February meeting, and then, if necessary, continue it on to the March.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much. I'm looking for a motion then here.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, move that case number SU-2020-01 be tabled until February 18th at 7 p.m.
I, Lynn Heath, second it.
Unless I want to, before I ask for an approval on this, we don't have to go through facts and findings up prior to this since we're tabling it, correct? Okay. Have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you for your time. Hope to see you. Yep. All right. Brings us to item number 10, member items. Anything from board?
No, sir.
I have one item, well, two items. Lynn's, this is his last meeting
Yes, sir.
after 23 years.
Yeah, around there, plus or minus.
Thank you for your service.
Certainly.
I really appreciate all that you've done for the city and for educating us.
Yep.
I've
Second
really
that.
enjoyed it, and also, I've tried to set the example of how things should be done, and this chairman does a good job.
Thank you.
Question, that's why I didn't like the chairman, because I didn't like to keep my mouth shut. And I think
Who's your replacement, Lynn?
I don't know.
Did you find somebody yet?
I don't know, but I enjoyed being the vice. I was about everything else in this committee over all these years, and I've really enjoyed it. The city has changed a lot since I came on this committee.
It certainly has. Well, good luck.
Well, yes, sir.
Any other member
Thank you.
items?
Well, I have one other item, but do you want to comment on
Well, I was
Lynn's
just going to
replacement?
answer the question about the replacement. Matt Rossi is here tonight, and I do believe, assuming the city council upholds the mayor's appointments Tuesday, so we can't say for sure, but this will be the appointment to replace Lynn's position by Mayor Price next week.
Very good, thank
So
you.
he got schooled tonight to come watch you guys.
Okay, my one other item. I happened to be driving down Andover Road, and it happened again tonight, just as I went past an electronic message center. The thing went almost completely white, bright as all get out. And it flashed so much that I lost my position on the road. And I went and looked at the Unified Development Ordinance in the zoning regulations, number 103, which, man, I love how that's set up. It is so easy to get in there and find things. It talks about the electronic message centers. They're based on their brightness in the evening time. And it appears that some of the message boards that are out there are not adhering to those regulations. And who's enforcing that?
Gary, that's something we struggle with a lot. A lot of the businesses that have those message boards get their content from someone else. Might be corporate content, might be a graphic designer who don't pay attention to our ordinance. So we have to make that visit now and again to the business and tell them that we have an ordinance that limits the brightness, and they'll need to change their message to reflect those limits.
Okay. Because I've noticed some of them do dim in the evening time, and I think that's great. But some of them just still come on bright as all get out at nighttime, and I think it's overpowering.
Most have an automatic dimming that comes from the programming. And then there are those that don't, that it's possibly on a clock that gets out of sync. but it's something we struggle with a lot.
Well, would you like me to identify which ones?
Why don't you give it to us after the meeting? And we'll go do some visits.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good point.
I think they're great. You know, the message centers are great, and it's a great way of advertising and things like that, but I think they're just too much of a distraction sometimes at evening time. So,
That's no argument from me. All right then, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I, Gary Israel, make a motion to adjourn the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals.
And I'll second it.
There you go.
We have a motion and a second to approve adjournment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.